All right, we're going to go over three examples that I've written down here, and to work through what's known in what you'll see in the textbook as base rate and percentage problems. I'm going to do this a little differently than what you'll see in the textbook once you get into the course. I like my procedure more, so that's why I'm really emphasizing my procedure, which I'll be showing you here, which is more of an algebraic approach to solving these problems. And it's actually an approach that's more common that you'll find online if you look, but I wouldn't suggest doing that. Okay, so let's just write down a few key words that you'll find in each of these problems. There's what, and that represents your variable. And you can call this whatever you want. I'll call it X. You'll see what I mean in a moment. And then there's another key word, which is. This represents equal. Is equal. And there's another key word that we'll run into, which is of. Of is, I guess I won't use that. I'll just say multiplication. The reason I didn't want to put an X for multiplication is because we've already defined our variable as X. Okay, so look for what is representing our variable, is equal, and of is multiplication. And if what we'll be doing is we'll be translating each of the English statements into an algebraic statement. And then we'll solve the algebraic statement. Okay, so let's go ahead and tackle the first problem. Example A is, what is 22% of 181? Now, this is something that you may ask someone. It's just regular English, and it should make some sense. What is 22% of 181? I mean, you may not have asked this before or anything like this before, but it's a well-structured English statement or question. So we have what represents our variable. It's our unknown. What is, so what is becomes X. Is, what is, so is represents equal. So we're going to put an equal sign there. 22%. So now what you want to do with the 22% is convert it into decimal or fraction form. It really doesn't matter. It's probably easiest to convert it into decimal form, in my opinion. So we'll do that. That becomes 0.22. If you need practice in converting percentages into decimal form, you may want to review that objective, that previous objective that we've covered. Of represents multiplication. So we'll put a dot right there for multiplication, and then we just bring down the 181. Now all we need to do is solve this algebraic equation. So X equals 0.22 times 181. So let's do that. We're solving for the what, which is X, and so we just need to take 0.22 and multiply by 181. You can do this. We've discussed how to do this in the previous objective. I'm going to just plug this into the calculator because really this isn't what we're covering in this objective. But I would suggest doing that if you want. And we've discussed how to multiply this in a different objective. So you just take 181 and multiply it by 0.22. And ignore the decimals. We've gone through this before, but I'm going to do this on my calculator. And we find that the solution is 39.82. So 39.82 is our what? So what we would say is 39.82 is 22% of 181. Okay, so think about what, just substituting 39.82 in for the what, and then just read it. And it should make some sense. All right. Moving on to the next problem. We have 15% of what is 51.3. Okay, so now we could just go down and translate this. So 15% is 0.15. As mentioned before, we want it in decimal form. Of is multiplication. What is our variable, x? Is, we put an equal sign, and we bring down the number, 51.3. So as you can see, we just went through the same exact procedure, and we just copied down what, using this key up here, and we've translated this into algebra. So now we want to solve for x. To do that, we would divide by 0.15 on both sides of the equation, and we would get x equals 51.3 divided by 0.15, and that is 51.3 divided by 0.15 is 342. So this was our solution before. Now our solution is 342. So let's think about what this means. So 15% of what? Remember, substitute our solution, 342, and for the what? 15% of 342 is 51.3. So it makes sense that 15%, if we looked at 15% of 342, we would have a smaller number, which ends up being 51.3. All right, so now let's move on to the last problem. We have what percent of 52 is 17.3? So what is x? Percent. Now, let's think about how we would apply this. Now, percent, we could think about how percent applies to the number in front. And you would realize that the percent, we can just multiply by 0.01. And for example, 50%, if we knew the percentage like the what, if we're thinking about 50%, we would be writing the decimal form down in here. So the 0.01 is just like moving the percentage into decimal form. So that's why we're multiplying by 0.01. It's representing converting the percent into decimal form. And then the of, we multiply. 52 is 17.3. Okay, so at this point, we want to solve for x. So we can multiply 0.01 by 52. So that becomes x times 0.52 equals 17.3. And then we can solve for x by dividing by 0.52 on both sides of the equation. So x equals 17.3 divided by 0.52. So x is equal to 17.3 divide 0.52, 33.269, and it goes on forever. Let's just round to 2 decimal places. 33.27. We'll be rounding that second decimal up because we have a 9 after. So let's put an approximation since it's not equal. So there's our solution. Let's think about how this makes sense. What percent of 52 is 17.3? So we've determined that 33.27%, so there's our percentage, 33.27% of 52 is 17.3. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense, and let me know if you have any concerns.